But if you listen, have you been listening to Trump? There was a piece at Huffington Post by John Soltz, who is the co-founder of VoteVets.org. He's an Iraq War veteran who wants nothing to do with right-wingers. But he wrote, "It's official. The voters in the Republican Party believe that the war in Iraq was wrong, based on lies, and led to the birth of ISIS. Donald Trump has made campaigning against the decision to go to war in Iraq one of the main pillars of his campaign. Trump said, quote, George W. Bush made a mistake. We can make mistakes, but that one was a beauty. We should have never been in Iraq. We have destabilized the Middle East. They lied. They said there were weapons of mass destruction. There were none. And they knew there were none." End quote, Donald Trump. Now, when you couple that, let me digress from what John Soltz wrote, but when you couple that with what Trump's been saying lately, that it's a goddamn joke and a sick one and a filthy one to suggest that George W. Bush kept us safe. If 3,000 people dying on American soil, the vast majority of whom were Americans, but there were dead people from, I don't know what, 30 different countries that were killed that day. And when you have, as Trump has pointed out, no, don't get me wrong, I'm not supporting Trump. I'm just saying there's a point to be made here. I'm getting to it. When Trump can say that they knew it was that the whole thing was a lie, and the Bush did not protect us from anything. As a matter of fact, Trump is slowly getting up to the point of saying that George W. Bush and his crew of demons were co-conspirators in what happened on September 11th, 2001. And Trump says that in South Carolina. Now, if you don't know South Carolina, let me tell you that there's an enormous amount of retired military and active military men and women who live there. South Carolina is a very militaristic state. It's like Georgia, like a lot of states in the South. It's like a garrison state. And the reason for that primarily is a lot of people do their basic training or their special training in the military here in the South, where they don't have to deal with, icy weather and yada, yada, yada. But South Carolina has turned the military into a fetish. And here you have Donald Trump standing up there and winning by, 10, 12, 15 points, whatever. The other thing about South Carolina, it is very, very fundamentalist religion. Now, it's not like Iowa. The fucks in Iowa, they're evangelicals, but they're that tight-ass Midwestern evangelical. The evangelicals over in South Carolina, they go out and drink and yell and scream and fight each other on Saturday night, but they still go to church on Sunday morning and consider themselves evangelicals. So they're a lot more loosey-goosey and more willing to shoot your ass if they don't like what you're saying. So Trump goes in front of that kind of an audience and says the things he's been saying. And no matter what he says, he keeps moving ahead to becoming the nominee of the Republican Party. He's also saying some things that are starting to sound very lefty populist. And he's still here in the South, all these white people who are voting for him. He calls the would-be second coming of Jesus, Rafael Cruz, a liar, which Cruz is. Cruz is a filthy goddamn liar. He's one of the most unchristian Christians I've ever met, but I haven't met him, but I've ever read about and seen on television. Only he's not a Christian, he's a Christo-fascist. There is a difference. He can tear Marco Rubio a new asshole. He demolishes Jeb Bush. And in South Carolina, the Bush name is, I won't say it's right up there with Jesus, but the Bush name was an established brand. to use the current vernacular. It was a brand that the militaristic South, I thought, really put a lot of stock in, but apparently not. So there's Trump, just like a dervish, with whirling around with sharp blades on his body. Everything the son of a bitch touches and he slices and dices, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Now, a lot has been made, and I've made it on this program. A lot has been made about the anger in this country. The people are angry, and the Sanders campaign and the Trump campaign are manifestations of that anger. I don't believe that's true anymore of either candidate. I really don't. No, I don't, especially not with Sanders. I think Sanders is trying to make a point to people that their lives could be a hell of a lot better if the capitalist pigs that are grinding everything out of people they can grind out and then grinding more, if they were displaced, if they were removed, if the system was were changed. Trump, on the other hand, I think, is not afraid to call a son of a bitch, or a liar. So Trump, when people say, and this was part for a while, it was stumped me. I couldn't understand why people were saying it. People would be asked at his rallies, "Why are you supporting this guy?" Well, because he tells it like it is, which is bullshit. Trump is a hustler. He's a developer. He's a hustler, and he works in a very Shark Tank, whatever you want to call it, kind of environment. Global real estate now, but New York real estate, yada yada yada, all that happy horse shit that we don't really need to know, except we need to know that that's the incubator out of which Trump emerged. So I think what people are glomming onto where it concerns Trump is the fact that he will tell his rallies, Jeb Bush is an asshole. Ted Cruz is a fucking liar. Marco Rubio is a wimp. John Kasich is boring. This one's low energy. That one's a pissant. This one, on and on and on, which is what people have really wanted to hear. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. The Progressive Voices Network brings you commercial-free commentary from today's leading progressive radio hosts and pundits, like me, Mike Malloy, 24 hours a day. I'm not your typical old guy from the 80s or the 90s talk radio host, and Progressive Voices is not your typical talk radio network. It's a listener-supported nonprofit with no corporate control whatsoever over our broadcast. So hosts like me, Mike Malloy, are free to rant and scream and carry on about whatever we like. We're often controversial, but we're never boring. You can begin in the morning with Bill Press and then end your day screaming with me, Mike Malloy, weeknights, 9 p.m. in the East, 6 p.m. in the West on the Progressive Voices Network. Always progressive, always on. I'm Mike Malloy. Keep it lit.